She spotted him lying in a puddle of black ice and even darker blood, holding onto 2 car seats like they were the only things keeping him alive. He was dying, and he was pointing a gun right at her chest. The freezing rain had been pounding Chicago's factory area for 4 hours without stopping. The kind of November rain that made the roads super slippery and froze right through cheap delivery coats. Emily Harrison saw the windshield wipers giving up against the heavy downpour, her breath making the inside of her beat-up van foggy. The clock on the dashboard showed 11:34 p.m. She'd been driving since 3 that afternoon, doing hospital training until 7, then jumping right into her fast delivery job. She'd started medical school 2 years ago before switching for a bit to nursing classes when she ran out of money. In the end, sadness made her quit both. Her feet hurt in her used sneakers. Her belly had been empty since the granola bar she'd cut in half that morning, saving the other half for tomorrow's breakfast. The app beeped. "You have arrived. Delivered to loading dock rear entrance. $15 tip." Emily's chest felt a little better, almost like relief. That tip meant she could get the instant ramen with the egg, not just the plain one. It meant her bank account wouldn't go negative when her student loan tried to come out on Friday. She picked up the warm bag from the seat next to her. Fancy sushi order. The kind of late-night snack only rich people would buy. The receipt from the restaurant showed a $200 bill for raw fish that would probably sit in some boss's breakroom fridge until it spoiled. Emily turned off the engine. The quiet felt sudden and weird. No machine sounds, no security lights moving across the parking lot. Just the rain hitting metal and the faraway noise of the highway. She'd delivered to warehouses before. They usually had guards, cameras, that busy hum of a place that never really shuts down. This one felt empty, like no one was there. Just drop it and leave, she thought. Finish the shift, go home, eat something, sleep. But that $15 tip. Emily pulled her hood over her head and stepped into the rain. It felt like sharp needles, mean and stinging. The loading dock was ahead, a concrete ramp into the side of the building. The light above was off. The booth where a guard should sit was empty, its window dark. Her sneakers splashed in puddles as she got closer. The warm bag felt heavier with each step. Something in her belly twisted. Nursing school had taught her to trust that feeling. The same feeling that made her check how people breathed, that noticed when a patient's skin looked bad before the machines did. She was 20 feet from the dock entrance when she heard it. Crying. Not just any crying. The desperate sobbing cry of a baby. 2 voices, actually. 2 babies. Emily stopped, the warm bag slipping from her cold fingers. It hit the ground with a wet smack. Forgotten. Her voice sounded smaller than she wanted, lost in the rain and dark. Is someone there? The crying got louder, scared, left alone. Emily's feet started moving before her brain could say no. She went around the corner of the loading dock, her eyes trying to see in the dark. The light from the main building barely got here, making everything look orange and weird. Then she saw them. 2 baby car seats were on the wet concrete, kind of protected by a fire escape above. The babies inside couldn't be more than 6 or 7 months old, their little faces red and wrinkled from crying, their cries rough and needy. But it was the man next to them that made Emily's breath stop. He was leaning against the brick wall, one hand holding tight to the handle of the closest car seat. Even in the low light, she could see the dark spot growing on his shoulder and chest, mixing with rain, too thick for water. His suit was fancy, even messed up and bloody. She could tell it cost more than her whole semester's school fees. Dark hair stuck to his forehead, and ink, fancy tattoos coming up his neck from under his collar, twisty and on purpose. A fancy car was 20 feet away, its front smashed into a pole, smoke still coming from the hood. Oh my God. Emily dropped to her knees next to him. The cold water soaked her jeans right away, but she hardly noticed. Sir, can you hear me?" His eyes opened a little, dark, almost black in the shadows, full of pain and something else that made her heart pound. Fear not for himself, for the crying babies next to him. Leave. His voice was just a whisper, thick with an accent she couldn't guess. Korean, maybe. His hand moved slow and shaky, and Emily's blood felt cold. He was holding a gun, the end lifting, wobbling, pointing at her chest. "Leave," he said, rough again. "Or die." Emily's hands were already pushing on his shoulder before her brain caught up. Warm, wet, blood from an artery. She'd seen enough in her hospital training to know this was bad. The wound was still bleeding, not as much as at first, but his skin was cold. Too cold, his breathing short and rough. "You need a hospital." The words came out automatic, from training. "I need to call 911. No." The gun got a little steadier. His jaw tightened. "No police, no hospital. They'll find the children." The babies were screaming now, a sound that pulled at something deep in Emily's chest. She looked at the loading dock doors behind him. They were locked from the outside. He wasn't hiding here. He was trapped here. Her mind went fast. 2 years of medical school before she quit. Before her parents died in that twisted crash of metal and fire. Before she'd held her father's hand while he bled out, waiting for help that came too late. Before she'd watched her mother fade in a clean hospital bed, saying Emily's name with her last breath. "If I'd just known more. If I'd just been faster. If I'd just please." The word came from his lips like a prayer. The gun lowered, his strength giving out. "Please." Emily looked at the babies, looked at this man who was dying, but still held on to them with all he had left, looked at the locked doors and the empty guard booth and the smoking car. Every smart thought yelled at her to run, to call for help, to do the right thing, the safe thing. But she thought of her father's last words. "Don't let them go. Whatever you do, don't let them go." "Okay." The word came out of her mouth before she could stop it. "Okay, but we're moving now. Can you stand?" He nodded. It was probably a lie. Emily looked at the babies. "Are they yours?" Something showed in his eyes. Pride even through the pain. "My children, Hannah, June, then Hannah and June are coming too." Emily grabbed the first car seat, heavier than she thought. She set it carefully where the rain couldn't reach, then grabbed the second. Her arms burned. She went back to the man, putting her shoulder under his good arm. "On 3, my van is 40 feet away. You're going to make it. Understand?" He nodded again. 1, 2, 3. They stood up together. His weight almost made her knees buckle. He was tall, easily 6'2", strong muscle under the ruined suit. He held back a sound of pain, and Emily felt him shaking. Step by slow step, they went toward her van. Emily's lungs burned. Her legs shook. She kept talking, part to keep him awake, part to stop herself from screaming. "I'm Emily, by the way. Emily Harrison. I'm a nursing student. Well, I quit, but I remember enough. God, I hope I remember enough." They got to the van. She leaned him against the side and ran back for the babies, grabbing both car seats, her arms yelling no. She buckled them in the back seat, her fingers messing with the straps. The babies had quieted 2 tired whimpers, their big eyes watching her with that weird knowing babies sometimes have. "It's okay," Emily whispered, though she had no idea if that was true. "I've got you." The man had slid down the side of the van by the time she got back. Emily pulled him into the passenger seat. His head fell back against the rest. She shut the door and ran to the driver's side. The engine coughed twice before starting. Emily's hands shook so bad she could barely hold the wheel. She drove away from the warehouse, her eyes jumping between the road and the man next to her. In the dashboard light, she could see his face clearly now. Sharp features, the fancy ink going up his neck, disappearing into his hair. The suit worth 6 months of her rent. The watch on his wrist worth enough to pay off her student loans. What have I done? The drive to her studio apartment usually took 30 minutes. Emily made it in 18, running to red lights, pushing her van until the frame shook. She kept talking the whole way, rambling, needy. "My place is small, really small, but it's clean. I have medical supplies, bandages, and stuff. I can do this. I can thank you." His voice cut through her worry, quiet but steady. Emily's hands gripped the wheel tighter. In the back seat, one of the twins started crying again, a sound that reached into Emily's chest and squeezed. Almost there, she promised them all, her voice breaking. Almost there. She pulled up to her building, turned off the engine, and sat for one long moment in the quiet. She just brought a hurt stranger and 2 babies to her home. She hadn't called the police. She had no idea what happened to him, who he was running from, or why he was so needy to avoid hospitals. His hand touched her arm. Emily jumped. His eyes were open, clearer now, despite the pain in every line of his face. "Thank you," he said again, and the weight of those 2 words felt over her like a crown she never asked for. Emily nodded and stepped out into the rain. And so it began. Welcome back, my fierce hearts and midnight dreamers. Before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed. Hit that like button and tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing our little dark romance family stretch across cities, countries, and time zones. Every click, every comment, every bit of love you leave here helps us keep unraveling these dangerous love stories and high-stakes betrayals together. So find your quiet place, dim the lights, and get ready. Let's begin. Getting him up 3 flights of stairs nearly killed them both. Emily half carried, half dragged him, stopping every few steps while he fought to stay awake. Mrs. Adam from to be opened her door at the noise, took one look, and closed it again without a word. Emily had never been more grateful for her neighbors not caring. By the time they got to her door, she was shaking. The man was barely breathing, and somewhere behind them in the night, someone was hunting. Emily's studio apartment was a tiny box on the 3rd floor of a building that should have been torn down 10 years ago. Peeling wallpaper the color of old coffee stains. A little kitchen barely big enough for one person to turn around in. A futon that was her couch in bed. The springs broken years ago. The heater clanked and hissed, making more noise than heat. She kicked the door shut behind her and let Kangdae fall against the nearest wall. His weight had nearly broken her on the last flight of stairs. Her shoulders yelled, her thighs burned, but she couldn't stop. Not yet. The babies were still crying, a non-stop sound that made her ears ring and her chest tight. Emily set the car seats on the futon, her hands shaking so bad she messed up the straps. Hannah's face was red and spotty, her tiny fists waving in upset. Jun's cries were rougher, tired. I know, I'm sorry." Emily's voice cracked. She had no idea what she was doing with babies. Her hospital training had been on adults, not kids. She'd held a baby exactly twice in her life, both times with help. A wet, rattling cough pulled her attention back to Kangdae. He'd slid down the wall, leaving a dark smear behind him. His head tilted to one side, eyes closed, breathing rough. The blood had soaked through his whole left side now, spreading across fancy fabric that looked silly in her shabby apartment. The difference was shocking. He looked like he'd been pulled from a totally different world and dropped into hers, broken and bleeding. Emily's training took over, pushing away the panic. She grabbed the plastic box from under her futon, the one labeled medical in faded marker. Bandages, gauze, alcohol, tweezers, surgical thread she'd taken from the school's supply closet before quitting. A half-empty bottle of vodka that stayed in her freezer for nights when the loneliness got too heavy. She spread a sheet on the floor, rolled him onto it, and knelt next to him. Her hands moved like a machine, cutting away the ruined suit jacket. The fabric ripped easy under her scissors, showing the dress shirt underneath. White silk turned dark red with blood. She cut that away, too. The wound was high on his left shoulder, just below the collarbone. Entry wound. Clean, small bullet, probably 9mm. Her fingers checked carefully, feeling for the exit wound. Nothing. Darn it. The bullet was still inside. Kangdae's eyes opened a little at her touch, dark and not focused, pupils big with pain and shock. He said something in Korean, the words thick and slurred. I don't understand. Emily pressed gauze against the wound, pushing hard. Blood came up between her fingers, hot and sticky. Stay with me. I need you awake. His hand came up fast, grabbing her wrist with surprising strength. His fingers were cold despite the fever heat coming from his skin. The touch sent a spark up her arm, sharp and real. Don't stop. His accent made the words sound like gravel and silk. Whatever happens, don't stop. I won't. Emily didn't know why she made that promise, but the words came out strong. Sure. She poured vodka over the tweezers, then over the wound. Kangday hissed through his teeth, his jaw clenching hard enough to make the muscles in his neck stand out like ropes. The fancy tattoos there seemed to twist in the low light. Dragons and shapes. Letters she couldn't read. Emily took a breath and pushed the tweezers into the wound. His hand tightened on her wrist, hard enough to bruise. He didn't scream, didn't make a sound beyond a quick breath in, but his whole body went stiff, every muscle locked in pain. Almost there. Sweat dripped down Emily's back, despite the cold apartment. Her hand was steady. 2 years of med school and a lifetime of watching her mother stay calm during her father's anger had taught her how to box up feelings, how to shut down emotion, and just do what needed to be done. The tweezers caught something hard. Emily changed her angle, felt it pull, tugged. The bullet came out with a wet sound that made her stomach flip. She dropped it into a bowl with a metal clink, right away pressing fresh gauze against the gushing blood. Kangday's grip on her wrist loosened. His head fell back, breath coming in short gasps. For a scary moment, Emily thought she'd lost him. Then his chest went up and down, and she heard the rasp of air in his lungs. "Stay with me." She threaded the needle with shaking hands. The surgical sutures were old, probably too old, but they'd have to work. "This is going to hurt." She pushed the needle through skin. He flinched, but didn't pull away. Emily worked fast, her stitches neat, despite the shake in her fingers. Muscle memory from countless hours in the skills lab, sewing up practice dummies that didn't bleed or breathe or grip her wrist like she was the only thing keeping them tied to the world. 10 stitches. 12, 15. She tied off the last one and sat back on her heels, breathing hard. Blood covered her hands, soaked into her jeans, splattered across her worn tank top. The metal smell filled the small space, mixing with the vodka and the smell underneath of him. Fancy cologne mixed with sweat and gunpowder. Emily bandaged the wound with the last of her clean gauze, wrapping it tight across his shoulder and around his back. Her hands brushed against bare skin. He was burning up, his fever going higher. She needed to get fluids in him. Watch for infection. Look for signs of shock. But first, the babies. They'd gone quiet. Not peaceful, but worn out. That scared Emily more than the crying. She washed her hands in the little kitchen sink, scrubbing away the blood, then turned to the car seats. Hannah stared up at her with wide, dark eyes. She'd stopped crying, but her little face was still red, her look one of confused upset. John had fallen into a restless sleep, his small chest going up and down fast. "What do I do with you?" she whispered. A sound made her turn. Kangday had pushed himself up to sitting, his back against the wall. His face was grey with pain, but his eyes were alert, fixed on the babies with a strength that made Emily's breath catch. "Hannah," his voice was rough. "The girl, June is the boy. They need formula. Diapers. I don't have anything." Emily heard the edge of panic in her voice. "I can't just leave you here in cabinet under the car seats." He pointed weakly toward the infant carriers. "Emergency supplies." Emily blinked. Sure enough, when she looked closer, she saw the storage spots under each seat. She opened them and found sealed bottles of ready formula, a pack of newborn diapers, and even a pacifier. "You came prepared." "I'm always prepared." Something showed in his face. Not quite a smile, but close. It softened the hard lines of his face, made him look younger, human. Emily warmed the bottles in the microwave, testing the heat on her wrist, the way she kinda remembered from a babysitting job when she was 16. She lifted Hannah first, holding the tiny weight against her chest. The baby drank from the bottle right away, sucking with hungry need. "When did they last eat?" Emily asked. 7 hours. Kangday's jaw tightened. "Maybe 8 hours. These babies were probably 6 months old at most." Emily's chest felt tight with something that felt close to angry protection. What kind of mess would make a man run with his kids for 8 hours without stopping to feed them? Hannah finished the bottle and fell asleep against Emily's shoulder, a warm, trusting weight. Emily laid her back in the car seat and picked up June. He woke with a surprised cry, his small body getting stiff. Emily shushed him softly, offering the bottle. He said no at first, turning his face away, but hunger won. He drank slower than his sister, his eyes watching Emily with a weird knowing. "They're beautiful," Emily said quietly. Yes, Kangday's gaze hadn't left them. In the harsh light from the single bulb above, Emily could see him clearly for the first time. Strong features, sharp cheekbones, a mouth that looked like it rarely smiled. The tattoos on his neck were fancy, clearly pricey work, and his hands, even bloody and shaking, were nice. Long fingers, clean nails, despite everything. The kind of hands that could sign death papers or hold a newborn with the same skill. Emily changed both babies, messing through it with shaking hands. Neither of them seemed bothered by her not knowing. They were too tired. She put them back in their car seats, covered them with her only clean blanket, and turned back to Kangday. He was watching her with a look she couldn't read. "You should sleep," Emily said. "Your body needs to heal. You should run." He said it like a fact, no feeling in his voice. "Take whatever cash is in my wallet and disappear. This apartment is in danger the moment I give you a name." Emily crossed her arms over her chest, suddenly knowing how small her space was, how close he was, how the air between them felt full of something risky. Little late for that warning. "I'm giving it anyway." He shifted, making a face as the move pulled at his stitches. "You don't know what you've brought into your home. Then tell me." Emily moved closer, knelt so they were eye to eye. "Who shot you? Why were you at that warehouse? And why the heck would someone lock the doors from the outside?" Kangday looked at her for a long moment. His gaze dropped to her mouth, then back to her eyes. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "What's your phone number?" Emily said it, without thinking. He pulled out his phone, screen cracked, but still working, and brought up her QuickDash profile. Her photo looked back at her. Emily Harrison, 5-star rating, 3,000 deliveries done. "Who ordered the sushi?" Kangday asked. Emily frowned. "Some company account. Big tip. I didn't really look at the name." He showed her the screen, the order details, the time, and then he showed her something else. A cancelled order made and deleted in the same minute. A fake entry that shouldn't be there. "No one ordered the sushi." "Emily," his accent wrapped around her name like smoke. "They hacked your app, made a fake order to get a driver to that exact spot, at that exact time. They needed someone to unlock the loading dock doors from the outside. You weren't just in the wrong place at the wrong time. You were the key they planned to use to get to me." Emily's blood felt cold. "That's not possible. You're a nursing student, correct? You work 4 nights a week for QuickDash. Your route covers the factory area because no one else wants it. You're easy to predict, reliable." He locked the phone screen. "And you were perfect for what they needed." "What they needed?" Emily's voice came out flat. "Which was to trap me." Kangday leaned his head back against the wall, tiredness finally catching him. "And to make sure there was a regular person there who could be blamed when they killed me." The words hung in the air between them, heavy and choking. Emily stood up fast, backing away, her mind going quick, trying to understand everything he was saying. "Then why didn't they kill me?" "Because I killed them first." He said it casual, like talking about the weather. "For men waiting in the shadows of that loading dock. They thought I'd come alone, hurt from the car crash, looking for cover. They didn't think I'd come 10 minutes early and clear the building before you got there. You were protecting me." The knowing hit Emily like a hit. "You didn't know me. You'd never seen me before. But you stayed in that alley because you knew I was coming. I owed you a debt." Kangday's eyes closed. "You were bait, innocent. That made it my job to make sure you lived." Emily thought about the empty guard booth, the unlocked loading dock doors, the way he'd been against the wall, with a gun. He hadn't been hiding, he'd been standing guard. "Who are you?" she whispered. He opened his eyes, met her gaze with a strength that made her feel open. "Someone who shouldn't be here. Someone who's going to get you killed if you let me stay." "Then why did you let me bring you here?" "Because I'm a selfish jerk." A hint of dark fun touched his mouth. "And because my children needed somewhere safe to sleep." Emily looked at the twins. peaceful in their car seats, looked at this dangerous, hurt man bleeding on her floor, looked at her hands, still stained with his blood despite washing them twice. She'd made her choice the moment she pressed her hands to his chest and refused to let him die. "There's a blanket in the closet," Emily said quietly, "and the futon folds out. You're not sleeping on the floor." "Emily, don't." She cut him off. "You're in no condition to argue, and I'm too tired to care about the consequences right now. Tomorrow, we'll figure this out. Tonight, everyone in this apartment gets to survive. That's the only goal." Kangdae studied her for a long moment. Then, impossibly, he smiled. A real smile, small and crooked, and devastating. "You're dangerous," says the man who shoots people in warehouses. "Especially for a man who shoots people in warehouses." Emily pulled the blanket from her tiny closet and spread it over the extended futon. She helped him to his feet, his weight against her side, his breath warm on her temple. She settled him on the futon, propped pillows behind his back so he could keep his wounded shoulder up. The studio apartment felt even smaller, with 4 people in it. Emily grabbed her own pillow and curled up on the floor between the futon and the babies. A human wall between the hurt mob boss and his children. She should be terrified, should be calling the cops, should be locking herself in the bathroom, should be anywhere but here. Instead, she closed her eyes and listened to the sound of breathing. For lives all mixed now, all depending on choices she'd made in a few heartbeats. Tomorrow would bring results. Tonight, she'd bought them all a chance to survive. In the darkness, she heard Kangdae's voice so quiet, she almost missed it. "Thank you." Emily didn't answer, didn't trust herself to speak because she was starting to realize something scary. She didn't regret any of it. Morning came harsh and mean. Emily woke to the sound of crying. Hannah this time, her cries high and non-stop. Grey light came through the single window, turning the studio apartment into a scene of faded mess. Blood-stained sheets, medical stuff scattered on the floor, empty formula bottles, and Kangdae awake and watching her from the futon. His fever had gone down some time in the night. Emily could tell from the clear in his eyes, the steadier way he breathed, but he looked worse in daylight. The shadows under his eyes were deep purple bruises. His skin had a grey look. The bandages on his shoulder had spots of fresh blood. "She's hungry," he said simply. Emily pushed herself up, her body yelling no. Every muscle hurt from yesterday's work. She hadn't slept more than 2 hours, waking at every sound. Sure, she'd hear footsteps in the hall or her door breaking, but the building stayed quiet. Even Mrs. Rivera next door kept her TV low. Emily made bottles, changed diapers, did the stuff like a machine. Her hands knew what to do even when her brain felt fuzzy. When both babies were okay again, she turned to find Kangdae trying to sit up. "Don't." She went to him fast. "You'll tear the stitches. I need to check my phone." His voice was tight with pain, but set. "See if anyone's called. You need to rest." Emily pushed him back down, maybe harder than needed. Her palm against his bare chest, still too warm, his heart pounding under her hand. She pulled back quick, feeling a spark like electricity. "I'm not used to being told what to do." "Then this will be a learning thing." Their eyes met, held. Something passed between them in that moment. Something that made Emily's breath catch and her skin feel tight. She'd spent her whole life making herself small, not seen, not scary. Her father had wanted it. The nursing program had expected it. Even her quick-dash deliveries needed a certain fake, harmless look. But this man was looking at her like she was the most dangerous thing in the room. "You're used to people being afraid of you," Emily said quietly. "Yes, I should be afraid of you." "Yes." His gaze dropped to her mouth. "But you're not." "I'm terrified." Emily's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Just not of you." The truth hung between them. Kong's face changed into something Emily couldn't read. Before either of them could speak again, June started fussing. The moment broke. Emily spent the morning in survival mode. She saved the last of the emergency formula, washed the bloody sheets in her bathtub sink, changed Kangdae's bandages with steady hands that hid the mess in her chest. By noon, the real situation started to push in. She had no food beyond half a box of old crackers. The formula wouldn't last another day. Her bank account had $43 in it, and she had a hurt crime boss and 2 babies in her 300-foot studio. Emily was cleaning bottles when the question finally came out of her. What kind of father takes 6-month-old twins to a warehouse meeting? The words came out sharper than she meant. Kangdae had been sleeping, his breathing finally even and deep. His eyes opened at her voice, right away, alert. "Excuse me." Emily turned to face him, soapy water dripping from her hands. "You heard me. What kind of man brings his babies to a place where he expects to be shot at? The kind who has no choice." "That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have." Kangdae shifted on the futon, his jaw tight with pain or anger or both. "You think I wanted them there? You think I planned to have my children in danger? Then explain it to me." Emily crossed her arms. "Make it make sense, because from where I'm standing, you either put your own children in risk, or you're lying about what happened." The quiet stretched between them, sharp and risky. When Kangdae finally spoke, his voice was low and controlled, deadly calm. "I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning to check the nursery monitors. They were blank, static. I went to their room and found my head of security turning off the alarms." He paused, his hands making fists. "He was the man I trusted to protect them when I couldn't. He was supposed to be loyal. Instead, he sold out to the highest buyer." Emily's anger went away, replaced by cold fear. "What did you do?" "What I had to do." Kangdae's gaze was steady, not blinking. "I killed him quietly, quickly. Then I grabbed the twins and ran. I had 15 minutes before the rest of his team knew something was wrong. I got to my car, strapped them in, and drove for the private airfield." "What happened?" "They hit me 6 blocks from my house, passenger side, pushed me into a pillar." His voice stayed no feeling, but Emily could see the tight in every part of his body. The airbags went off. The twins were screaming. "I had a head injury and blood in my eyes, and I knew more would come." "So, you went to the warehouse." "It was the closest cover. I thought I'd have 10 minutes to regroup, find another car, get us out of the city." He looked at the sleeping babies. The warehouse was supposed to be empty. Instead, it was a trap. They hacked your delivery app to make sure someone would unlock the doors from the outside at the exact moment they needed in. Emily sat in the folding chair near the little kitchen, her legs suddenly weak. "You didn't take them to a meeting. You were trying to escape. I am the only safe place left in their world." The words came out rough, hurt. "Their mother is dead. My group is messed up. Everyone I trusted has either turned on me or been killed. I'm all they have left." Emily thought about her own mother, calling for her with her last breaths, about holding her father's hand while he died in twisted metal, about being totally alone in the world, with no one to trust, no one to count on. "I understand," she said softly. Kangdae's eyes snapped to hers. "Do you?" "Yes." Emily held his gaze. "Because I'm all I have left, too." Something changed in his face. The wall against her cracked just a little. Emily saw past the cold mob boss outside to the man under, desperate, tired, scared of failing the 2 tiny lives counting on him. "Your bandages need changing," Emily said, breaking the moment before it could get too heavy. "And I need to check for infection." She got her supplies and knelt by the futon. Kangdae sat up slow, letting her unwrap the bloody gauze. The wound looked better, angry and red, but the stitches held. No signs of bad infection yet. Emily's fingers worked good, cleaning the spot with gentle care. She was very aware of how close they were, of the heat from his skin, of the way his breathing changed when her hands brushed his bare shoulder. The tattoos were hard to ignore now. Fancy patterns covered his neck, went under the bandages, and went down his arms. Dragons twisted around shapes, letters in writing Emily couldn't read. The artwork was beautiful, clearly expensive. "Their coordinates," Kangdae said quietly. Emily's hands stopped. "What?" "The tattoos." He lifted his right arm, showing her the inside of his forearm, numbers hidden in the pattern. "They're not just art, they're coordinates and codes, access keys, encryption stuff." "I don't understand." The Guyong Syndicate has been around for 80 years. We've built money, bank accounts overseas, property, info networks. His voice was fact, like a doctor. All of it needs keys to get in, passwords, body scans, and in my case, a very real map. Emily traced one of the patterns with her fingertip, not quite touching his skin. How much? How much what? How much is written on your body? Candace's mouth curved into something not quite a smile. Enough to mess up 3 governments and pay a small army for 10 years. That's why they didn't shoot you in the head. The knowing clicked. They need you alive, or they need my skin. He said it flat. No feeling. Dead or alive, the info is still there. They just like alive, because then they can get everything I know beyond what's tattooed. Emily's stomach flipped. That's awful. That's business. She started working on his bandages again. Her hands less steady now. The closeness of the job felt different with this new info. She wasn't just fixing a hurt man. She was handling millions, billions in hidden stuff right there. Why did you tell me? Emily tied the fresh bandages, her fingers staying on his skin for just a moment too long. Because you deserve to know what you're protecting. Kangdae caught her hand before she could pull away. His thumb brushed her knuckles, a touch that sent heat up her arm. And because if something happens to me, someone needs to know how to get what the children will need. Nothing's going to happen to you. You can't promise that. Watch me. Emily met his eyes, saw her own self in those dark parts. I didn't go through medical school, lose my parents, work myself too tired, and pull your dying self up 3 flights of stairs, just to lose you to an infection or a kill team. Now, why? The question was soft, really curious. Why are you doing this? You could have called the police, could have walked away, could have saved yourself. Emily thought about it, about the real answer under all the reasons. Because for the first time in 3 years, I feel like I'm doing something that matters. Like I'm not just getting through shifts, sinking in debt and sadness and empty. You and these babies, you need me, and I haven't been needed in a very long time. Kangdae's hand tightened on hers. You're going to get yourself killed, maybe. Emily smiled, surprising herself. But at least I'll die doing something besides delivering pricey sushi to people who don't tip. A sound came from him, not quite a laugh, but close. It changed his face, made him look younger, human, dangerous in a whole different way. Jun picked that moment to wake with a cry. Emily pulled her hand free and went to him, lifting the baby against her shoulder. He was small and warm and real, his tiny fist grabbing her shirt. She turned back to find Kangdae watching her with a look she couldn't name. Hunger, maybe, or longing, or both. Let me try, he said. You're not strong enough, please. The single word held so much weight. Emily waited, then carefully gave John to Kong's arms. She had to help him hold the baby. Had to hold most of the weight herself because his hurt shoulder couldn't take it. Kangdae looked down at his son with a look of total fear. I'm going to drop him. You won't. I've got you. And she did. Emily's hands held both the baby and the father, making a bridge between them. John settled right away, his small body relaxing against Kangdae's chest. The baby's tiny hand reached up, grabbing at the ink on his father's neck. For the first time since Emily found him bleeding in that alley, Kang looked like he might break, his eyes closed, his jaw tight. A single muscle moved in his cheek. I don't know how to do this, he whispered. How to be soft, how to be safe. You learn. Emily's voice was gentle. You figure it out as you go. You make mistakes, and you fix them, and you keep trying. What if I fail? Then we fail together. Emily meant it. She'd tied herself to these 3 lives without thinking about the results. And now watching this dangerous man hold his son with shaking hands, she knew she wouldn't take it back, even if she could. Kangdae opened his eyes, looked at her, and Emily saw the moment he stopped fighting whatever was growing between them. The moment he accepted that she wasn't leaving, that they were in this together. Now, for better or worse, Emily, her name on his lips, felt like a promise, like a threat, like the start of something neither could control. Yeah, thank you. He said it with such real raw truth that Emily felt something open in her chest. something she'd kept locked since the night her mother died. "Hope you're welcome." They stayed like that for a long moment, the three of them connected by touch and need, and something way more dangerous. Outside, Chicago kept its fast pace. Sirens cried in the distance. Traffic hummed on the highway. The world kept turning, not caring about the small change happening in Emily Harrison's 300-square-foot studio apartment. But in this moment, in this breakable bubble of safety, it was just the four of them against everything else. Emily had no idea how they'd live, had no plan beyond the next hour, the next day, but she knew with total sure that she'd made the right choice, even if it killed her. 3 days passed in a weird hanging reality. Emily called in sick to her hospital training, set a family emergency for her quick dash shifts. The $43 in her account went to nothing. She saved the last of the formula, learned to guess when Hannah would wake crying and when John just needed holding, learned the pattern of Kangday's breathing, could tell when his pain went up, when the fever might come back. They fell into a routine from need. Emily changed bandages at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. Kangday wanted to help with the babies. Despite his not moving much, his will almost hurt to watch. They didn't talk about what came next, didn't say the impossible of their spot. The studio apartment felt both too small and oddly close. Every move brought them touching. Every talk happened in whispers, so not to wake the twins. Emily slept on the floor between the futon and the babies, a human wall that became habit. On the fourth morning, Emily woke to find the heater actually working. Heat came through the old metal, filling the apartment with nice warmth. For the first time since winter started, she sat up, confused. Kangday was awake, sitting on the edge of the futon with a screwdriver in his good hand. "You fixed my heater." It was a simple fix thing. The pressure valve was stuck. He set the screwdriver down carefully. "You were cold." Something about that simple words, "you were cold," made Emily's chest tight. She'd said it once, not serious, 3 days ago, and he'd remembered, had pulled himself across her apartment to fix something she'd given up on months ago. "Thank you." "You're welcome." Kangday's gaze held hers. "I owed you." "You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Neither was ready to look at. Emily broke the moment by standing fast, busy with the morning stuff. But she was super aware of him now in a way that made her skin feel electric, of how his eyes followed her moves, of the way the air seemed full whenever they were in the same space. By noon, they'd run out of formula. Emily stared at the empty cans with growing fear. She had no money, no way to get more stuff. The babies would be hungry again in 3 hours, and she had nothing to give them. "I need to make a supply run." She said it casual, like it wasn't scary. "No." Kangday's voice was sharp. "It's not safe. We don't have a choice. They need food." "Then I'll go." "You can barely stand." Emily grabbed her jacket. "I'll be fast." Corner store. In and out. "Emily, watch the babies. I'll be back in 20 minutes. She left before he could argue more, before she could lose her brave. The November air bit at her face as she ran down the 3 flights of stairs. Outside, the neighborhood looked normal. Afternoon shoppers, delivery trucks, nothing weird, but Emily couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The corner store was 6 blocks away. She walked fast, hands in her hood against the cold. The cashier hardly looked at her as she grabbed 2 cans of formula and a box of diapers, the cheapest kinds. $32. She didn't have $32. Card declined. The cashier said flat, "Can you try again?" Declined. Emily's face got hot. The line behind her was getting longer. "I can put back the diapers." A hand reached past her, putting 2 crisp 20s on the counter. Emily turned around to find an older woman behind her. Korean, nice looking, despite her simple coat. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "For the babies," the woman said softly. "They need to eat." Every feeling Emily had yelled danger, but she took the money, said a choked thanks, and ran from the store with her stuff. She made it 2 blocks before knowing someone was following her. Not obvious, not scary, just a man in a dark coat, keeping a steady space behind her. When Emily sped up, He sped up. When she turned down a side street, he followed. Emily started running. She burst through her apartment building door, took the stairs 2 at a time, messed with her keys. The man didn't follow her inside, but she'd felt his eyes on her back the whole way. Watching, tracking. We're in trouble, she gasped as soon as she was inside. Someone followed me. An old woman paid for the formula, and then a man. Kang Dae was already moving, his face grey with pain, but his eyes sharp. Followers, they mark you so others can track you. We need to leave now. We can't. You're still healing, and the babies. We'll die if we stay here. He was already getting stuff, moving with purpose despite his hurts. They're finding our spots, waiting for the right time to attack. Emily's hands shook as she warmed the bottles, her mind going fast. How long do we have? Hours, maybe less. She fed Hannah first, the baby drinking hungry, not knowing the danger. June next, his small face relaxed and trusting. Emily remembered every detail, the weight of them in her arms, the sweet milk smell, the way their tiny hands gripped her fingers. If something went wrong, she wanted to remember this moment of peace before everything broke. John had just finished his bottle when his body went stiff in her arms. Kang Dae, Emily's voice cracked with fear. Something's wrong. The baby's eyes rolled back. White foam came from his small mouth. His body started to shake in bad spasms. No, 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 no. Emily laid him on the floor, turning him on his side. Her training took over, automatic and needy. Airway, breathing, circulation. But nothing in her hospital training had ready her for this, for holding a shaking baby in her arms, while her own heart tried to get out of her chest. Kang Dae was next to her in a flash, his pain forgotten. What's happening? Poison. The word came out choked. The formula. They poisoned the formula. Hannah started shaking seconds later. Emily's world got small to one point. 2 babies dying in front of her. 2 lives she'd sworn to protect, slipping away because she'd been dumb, careless, needy. Hospital, Kang Dae said. Now we can't. Emily was already moving, grabbing stuff, her hands steady despite the yelling in her head. They'll be waiting. They want us scared. Want us to run right into their trap. Then what? I'm going to pump their stomachs. She said it with more sure than she felt. Here now, Emily had seen the thing done exactly twice during her kid training, had read about it in books, had practiced on fake babies that didn't shake and foam and die. She grabbed the medical tube from her supply box, turkey baster from the little kitchen, salt water she'd used to clean Kang Dae's wound. Not clean, not right tools, but it was all she had. Hold Hannah. Emily's voice was pure order. Keep her on her side. Don't let her choke. Kang Dae did it right away, holding his daughter with his good arm. His face was a mask of controlled fear, but his hands were steady. Emily worked on June first, measured the tube, put it carefully down his tiny throat. He gagged, his small body fighting her. She pushed through, hating herself, knowing she had no choice. Pumped salt water in, sucked the stuff back out. Throw up and milk and the sour smell of something chemical again and again, until the fluid came back clear. Chun's shakes slowed, stopped. His breathing got even. Emily moved to Hannah, did the same with shaking hands. The little girl fought harder, her small hands pushing weak at Emily's arms. But Emily didn't stop, couldn't stop. Pumped and sucked until Hannah's stomach was empty and her breathing okay. Both babies lay tired and pale, but breathing, alive. Emily fell back against the wall, her whole body shaking. Tears ran down her face, quiet and hot. She'd done it. She'd really done it. But the horror of what almost happened, what could still happen, hit her in waves. Kang Dae set Hannah carefully in her car seat and turned to Emily. For the first time since she'd met him, she saw his control break totally. He went to her in 2 steps and pulled her against his chest, his good arm wrapping around her with strong force. Emily felt him shaking, felt the wet of tears against her hair. You saved them. His voice was raw, broken. You saved my children. Emily couldn't speak, could only hold him and shake and try to breathe through the rush crash. They stayed like that for long minutes, two people holding each other together while the world tried to tear them apart. When Kangdae finally pulled back, his eyes were dry but haunted. He cupped her face in his hand, his thumb brushing away her tears. "I owe you more than my life," he whispered. "I owe you my legacy. You don't everything I have, everything I am, everything I've built." His gaze burned into hers. "It's yours now, all of it, because without you, none of it matters." Emily's breath caught. She knew what he was giving, not just thanks, not just debt, but something way more risky and forever. "Kangdae, don't answer now." He let her go gently, stepping back. "But know that the offer stands, always." Emily nodded, not trusting her voice. They spent the next hour watching the babies, looking for any left effects of the poison. Both twins slept uneasy, their small faces still too pale, but their breathing stayed steady. "We can't stay here," Kangdae said finally. "They've marked this spot. They'll come tonight." "Where do we go?" "I have a place, a safe house. No one knows about it." He looked at her, his face hard to read. "But once we go there, Emily, there's no going back. You'll be fully in this world, to me, to everything that comes with it." Emily thought about her empty apartment, her left dreams of finishing nursing school, her dead-end delivery job, and growing debt, and crushing alone. She thought about her parents' grave she hadn't visited in 6 months, because she couldn't afford flowers. Then she looked at the twins, alive and breathing because she'd refused to give up. Looked at Kangdae, this dangerous, mixed man who trusted her with everything that mattered. "Let's go," she said simply. They packed in quiet. Emily changed the babies into clean clothes, buckled them in their car seats. Kangdae moved slow but on purpose, getting what little they had. His phone went into the toilet tank, broken beyond fix. Emily's phone followed. "No tracking," he explained. "From this point, we're ghosts." Emily took one last look at her studio apartment, at the peeling wallpaper and broken furniture and the life she'd been barely living. She felt nothing. No sorry, no old memories. Just relief that she was finally leaving it all behind. They made it to the van without trouble. Kangdae gave her directions in short words. They drove in quiet, the city lights blurring past the windows. Emily kept checking the rear mirror, looking for Chase, but the streets stayed clear. Empty, too empty. "Something's wrong," she said. "I know." They were 15 minutes from the safe house when Kangdae's extra phone rang. "Unknown number," he answered, his face getting hard as he listened. "What?" Emily asked when he hung up. "Change of plans." His voice was flat, deadly. "The safe house is in trouble. They were there first. Then where? I don't know." For the first time, Kangdae sounded lost. "I don't know where else is safe." Emily's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Behind them, headlights showed in the distance. One car, then two, then four. "We have company," she said quietly. Kangdae turned to look, his jaw tight. "Drive fast." Emily pushed the gas to the floor. The old van complained, engine whining, but it did it. The speed went past 60, past 70. The chasing cars matched their speed. "They're not trying to stop us." Kangdae saw. "They're pushing us. To where? Nowhere good." Emily's mind went fast. They had a hurt man, 2 babies, and a van that wouldn't last a fast chase. No weapons, no help, no plan. They were trapped, and somewhere in the dark behind them, hunters got closer for the kill. The GPS on Kangdae's extra phone showed nothing but dead ends ahead. Emily took a hard right, tires screaming, the van tilting bad. In the back, the babies woke crying. Their cries filled the small space, adding to the mess there. Kangdae pointed to a factory spot coming up on the left. "Storage places, many buildings. We can lose them in the maze." Emily didn't wait. She yanked the wheel, jumping the curb, crashing through a chain fence that was old. The van bounced hard over rough road, shocks yelling. Behind them, the chasing cars slowed, grouping again. They'd bought minutes, maybe. Emily turned off the lights and drove by moonlight, going between big storage buildings. She pulled into a narrow path between two and cut the engine. Quiet, just the tick of cooling metal and the baby's scared cries. "We need to move." Kang Dae was already out of the van, his face grey with pain, but his moves sure. "Take the twins. Find a unit that's unlocked. What about you? I'm the distraction." He pulled a gun from somewhere in his jacket. Emily hadn't known he had one. "They want me. I'll lead them away from you." "Absolutely not, Emily." "No." She grabbed the first car seat, then the second. Her arms burned with the weight, but she didn't care. "We stay together. That's the only way this works." She saw him start to argue, then stop. Something changed in his face. Not giving up, knowing. He nodded once and led the way deeper into the spot. The storage place was a maze of same buildings. Kang Dae moved with purpose despite his hurts, checking doors, trying locks. The third unit he tried had a broken lock. He pushed it open and got Emily inside. Darkness total and full. Emily's heart pounded as she felt for her phone. Remembered she broke it. Then light came. Kang Dae had found a battery lantern someone left. The unit was maybe 10 by 15 feet, empty except for some old furniture with dust and a stack of boxes. Emily set the car seats down carefully, her arms shaking with relief. "They're right behind us," Kang Dae said quietly. He was listening at the door, the gun steady in his hand, despite his weak state. "How many?" "At least 6, maybe more." He looked at her, his face hard to read. "Emily, if I tell you to run, I won't. If I tell you to run," he kept going like she hadn't spoken. "You take the twins and you go. There's an emergency kit in the van under the driver's seat. Cash, fake IDs, everything you need to disappear. Stop talking like you're going to die. I'm talking like I'm ready for real." Kang Dae moved closer, cupped her face with his free hand. "You've already done more than anyone could ask. More than I had any right to hope for. But this is where it ends for me. This is where you save yourself." "No." Emily grabbed his wrist, held tight. "We survive this together or not at all. Those are the options. Choose." For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Then Kang Dae smiled. That bad, crooked smile that made him look almost human. "You're impossible. I'm committed." "There's a difference." A sound outside cut off whatever he was about to say. Footsteps, many, getting closer. Kang Dae turned off the lantern. Darkness took them again. Emily heard him move, putting himself by the door. She felt in the shadows, finding a metal pipe among the old furniture. "Not much, but better than nothing." "Stay behind me," Kang Dae whispered. "No matter what happens, protect the twins." The footsteps stopped right outside their unit. Emily's breath stopped. In the dark, she heard the baby moving, starting to fuss. She pressed her hand gently over June's mouth, hating herself for it, but knowing a cry now would kill them all. The footsteps moved on. Emily let out the breath she'd held. They waited in the dark, every sense alert. Minutes went slow like hours. The babies somehow knew the danger, staying quiet with a spooky knowing. Then the door blew in. The metal shutter screamed as it was pulled up. Light from outside flooded the unit. Emily was blind, her eyes trying to adjust. She heard Kang Dae move, heard the sharp crack of gunfire. Someone screamed. Many someones. Emily's sight cleared enough to see 2 bodies on the ground. Kang Dae was already moving, his hurt shoulder forgotten, pure gut and training taking over. But there were more coming. She could hear them around the building. Back door. Emily grabbed both car seats, rush giving her crazy strength. There has to be a back door. Kang Dae fired twice more, covering their way back. Emily found a rusted service door, kicked it open with more force than she knew she had. They spilled into a path, darkness and shadows and nowhere to run. A figure stepped out in front of them, tall, armed, face covered by a black mask. Kang Dae raised his gun, but the stranger was faster. He fired, not at Kang Dae, but at the ground near his feet. A warning shot. "Don't." The voice was muffled by the mask, but something about it made Emily's blood freeze. "Please don't make me do this." "Then don't," Kang Dae said cold. "Step aside. Let us pass." "I can't. They'll kill the stranger's voice broke. "They'll kill her. My sister. If I don't bring you in, they'll kill her." Emily's world turned sideways. That voice, older, rougher, but known in a way that made her chest tight with horror and impossible hope. Mark. Her voice came out barely a whisper. The masked figure froze. Slowly, he reached up and pulled the mask off. Emily's brother stared back at her. 3 years older, harder, covered in scars she didn't know. But for sure Mark M. His gun shook. What are you? Why are you? You were supposed to be in rehab. Emily heard her own voice from far away. You said you were getting clean. You said I lied. Mark's face twisted with shame and need. The syndicate bought my debts, gave me a choice, work for them or watch you die, to pay what I owed. So you've been hunting us. Emily's shock was turning into something cold and sharp. You've been trying to kill him. I'm trying to save you. Mark's voice cracked. Don't you get it? They own me now. They own everything I am. And if I don't deliver him, they'll start cutting pieces off you until I do. Kangdae moved faster than Emily could follow. One moment he was next to her. The next he had Mark against the wall, gun pressed to his head. How many are here? Kangdae's voice was ice. How many hunters? 12, maybe 15. Mark wasn't fighting back. Please, please, I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want my sister safe. By working for the people trying to kill her. By doing whatever it takes to keep her alive. Kangdae's finger tightened on the trigger. Emily saw it. Saw the thinking in his eyes. Saw him decide that Mark was too risky to leave alive. Don't. Emily stepped forward, her hand closing around Kangdae's wrist. Please don't. He'll turn on us again. Maybe. Emily looked at her brother, this stranger in Mark's face. But he's still my brother, and I need to know why. I need to understand. Kangdae held her gaze for a long moment. Then slowly he lowered the gun, but he didn't step back. Didn't give Mark space to move. Talk, Emily said to her brother fast. Mark fell against the wall, looking beat. After Mom and Dad died, the debts didn't die with them. The hospital bills, the funeral costs, the house loan. It all fell to me. I couldn't. I didn't know how to. So, you borrowed from bad guys. I borrowed from people who said they could help. Mark's laugh was bitter. They helped. Oh right. Helped themselves to everything I had left. When I couldn't pay, they gave me options. Work for them, or watch them take everything from you. Your apartment, your school money, your life. Why didn't you tell me? Emily's voice broke. Because you were already sinking. You just lost them, too. You were working yourself to death trying to stay in school. What was I supposed to do? Add my fails to your pile. A sound from the far end of the path cut off Emily's answer. More footsteps. More hunters getting close. They're coming, Mark said quietly. I told them I'd bring you out the back. Deliver you to them. They're expecting. He never finished the sentence. Kangdae moved with deadly care, spinning Mark around and using him as a shield. As the first wave of hunters came round the corner, gunfire started. Mark jerked in Kong's hold, taking 2 bullets meant for them. No. Emily's scream was lost in the mess. Kangdae shot back, his aim deadly, even hurt. 3 hunters went down. 4, but there were too many. They were stuck with nowhere to run. Mark fell in Kangdae's arms, blood spreading across his chest. His eyes found Emily's filled with pain and sorry and something that might have been relief. Run, Mark whispered. Please, run. Kangdae was already moving, pulling Emily back toward the storage unit, toward any cover they could find. But Emily looked back, saw her brother fall to the ground, saw the pool of blood under him, saw him mouth words she couldn't hear. I'm sorry. Then Kangdae pulled her around a corner, and the world blew into fighting and mess and the needy math of living. They ran through the maze of storage units. Kangdae's arm like iron around Emily's waist, half carrying her as she held both car seats against her chest. The babies screamed, their cries bouncing off metal walls, a signal for every hunter in the place. Behind them, gunfire came in short bursts. Bullets hit aluminum sides, sending sparks into the dark. Emily's lungs burned. Her arms felt like they were ripped from sockets. But she didn't stop, couldn't stop. Mark's blood was still warm on her hands. Kangdae pulled her left, then right. His moves gut despite his wounds. He knew how to go through mess, how to hear the sounds of chase and change their path on pure math. Emily just held on and trusted him. They burst out of the maze into an open lot. The van sat 50 yards away, in harsh security light. Too far, too open. "We won't make it," Emily gasped. "Yes, we will." Kangday's grip tightened. "On 3, sprint, don't look back." Emily counted her own heartbeats. 1, 2, 3. They ran. The world got small to the sound of her feet hitting road. The weight of the babies pulling her down. The spark knowing of Kangday next to her. She heard shouts behind them. More gunfire. A bullet hit the ground 6 inches from her foot, sending up bits of road. Then they were at the van. Kangday yanked the door open, almost throwing Emily inside. She buckled the car seats with shaking hands while he shot back, his body blocking the open door. 3 shots. 4. A scream from somewhere in the dark. He jumped into the passenger seat. Dr. Emily's hands found the keys still in the start. She'd never taken them out. The engine roared. She pushed it hard, the van sliding as they left the lot. In the rear mirror, she saw figures coming from the storage maze, saw gun flashes, heard the thunk of bullets hitting the van's back. Then they were on the main road, joining thin late-night cars. Just another no-name van in Chicago's endless traffic. Emily drove in quiet for 20 minutes, taking random turns, going back, checking mirrors all the time. Next to her, Kangday was checking his extra phone, his face lit by the screen's pale glow. "The safe house," Emily finally said. Her voice sounded wrong, empty. "You said you had a safe house. It's in trouble." Kangday didn't look up from the phone. "Minho just sent spots. A motel outside the city. He says it's clean. Can we trust him?" "No." Kangday locked the phone. "But we're out of choices." Emily's hands gripped the wheel tighter. In the back seat, the twins had cried themselves to tired sleep. She could hear their tiny catching breaths, could smell the metal tank of blood. Hers, Kangday's marks, all mixed in the closed space. Mark, her brother, the ghost who'd been hunting them. "He waited," Emily whispered, "when he knew me. He didn't want to shoot. He would have." Kangday's voice was flat. "Eventually, when the other was worse. You don't know that. I know men like him. I've been men like him." He turned to look at her, his face half shadow in the passing streetlights. "Your brother sold his soul for a debt. Once you do that, Emily, there's no buying it back. You just become someone else's weapon until you break." Emily wanted to argue, wanted to defend Mark, but she'd seen the scars on his body, the empty in his eyes. Her brother had been gone long before tonight. What stayed was just a ghost in his face. "I should have known," she said. "Should have seen stuff." Kangday's hand found hers on the gear, his fingers through hers, warm and solid and real. "You can't save people who don't want saving. Believe me, I've tried." They drove the rest of the way in quiet. The Starlight Motel sat on the edge of the highway like a forgotten hurt. Neon flickered weak, promising empty rooms and color TV and letters that were probably hopeful 20 years ago. Emily pulled into the lot, parking in shadows between 2 big trucks. "Wait here." Kangday was out before she could say no. Moving toward the office with the gun hidden under his jacket, Emily watched him go, her heart pounding. In the back seat, Hannah moved, whimpering soft. Emily reached back, her fingers finding the baby's small hand. Hannah's grip tightened automatic, and something in Emily's chest cracked open. These kids had lost so much. Their mother, their home, their safety. And now they were sleeping in a bullet-full van outside a highway motel because the world wanted them dead. Kangday came out of the office holding a key. "Room 14, end unit." He waved for Emily to follow. The room smelled like clean stuff and years of cigarette smoke. 2 double beds with iffy sheets, a bathroom with rust in the tub, a window that looked out on the highway where trucks roared past every few minutes, making the thin walls shake. Emily set the car seats on the first bed, while Kangday checked the locks, the window, the next door. His moves were machine, trained, but she could see the tired in every line of his body, the way he favored his hurt shoulder, the gray color to his skin, You need to rest, she said. I need to think. He sat on the edge of the second bed, the gun still in his hand. Minho wouldn't have sent us here without a reason. Either it's really safe, or it's bait. Which do you think it is? Both. Kongdae's smile was bitter. Everything is both, Emily. Safety and trap. Friend and enemy. The only question is, which kills you first? Emily went to the bathroom, wet a worn towel with cold water, brought it back to him. She knelt between his legs, dabbing at the dried blood on his face, his neck. He let her, his eyes closing, his breathing getting even. I killed him, Emily whispered. My brother. I didn't pull the trigger, but I let you. You made a choice. Kongdae's eyes opened, dark and deep. Between the brother who sold you for his debts, and the children who need you to live. That's not murder, Emily. That's math. It doesn't feel like math. No. His hand came up, holding her jaw. His thumb traced her cheekbone, wiping a tear she didn't know she had. It feels like drowning. Like you can't breathe because the guilt is crushing your chest. Like you'll never be clean again no matter how hard you scrub. Emily stared at him. How do you know? Because I've made that choice 1,000 times. His gaze held hers. And every single time I chose living, chose the people who mattered over the people who didn't. Your brother stopped mattering the moment he pointed a gun at you. That's the only truth that counts. The room was so quiet, just the hum of the old air thing and the far roar of the highway. Emily was still kneeling between his legs, her hands on his thighs, feeling the tight coiled in every muscle. I'm not like you, she said softly. No. Kongdae's other hand joined the first, holding her face like she was something precious, easy to break. You're better. You haven't been ruined yet. Maybe I want to be ruined. The words hung between them, raw and honest. Kongdae's breath stopped short. His pupils got big, black, taking the dark brown of his eyes. Don't say that. His voice was rough, strained. You don't know what you're asking for. Then show me. Emily rose on her knees, bringing herself even with him. She could feel the heat coming off his body, could smell blood and gunpowder, and something darker, more basic. Could see the fight behind his eyes, the want fighting the last bits of his control. Emily. Her name was a warning, a prayer. She kissed him. It wasn't gentle, wasn't testing. She kissed him like she was drowning and he was air. Like she needed to prove to both that she was still alive, still able to feel something other than fear and sadness. Kongdae froze for half a heartbeat. Then he was kissing her back with a hunger that took her breath. His hands slid from her face to her hair, fist in the tangled parts. His mouth was hot and wanting, tasting like metal and need. Emily's world got small to feeling. The scrape of his rough chin, the way his teeth caught her bottom lip, the sound he made, something between a growl and a groan. When her hands found bare skin under his ruined shirt, he pulled back sudden, breathing hard. We can't. Why not? Because you deserve better than a blood-soaked motel room and a dying mob boss. What if I don't want better? Emily's hands were shaking as she reached for him again. What if I just want you right now before everything falls apart? Kongdae stared at her like she'd said a language he'd forgotten. Then he was sitting on the edge of the bed, pulling her between his legs. Emily straddled his lap, careful of his hurts, taking control so he wouldn't strain his hurt shoulder. He turned, pressing her against the wall beside the bed. The hit sent feeling down her spine. His hands were everywhere, sliding under her shirt, mapping the curve of her ribs, the dip of her waist. She arched into his touch, needy for more, for everything. Emily, he said her name against her throat, his lips tracing the pulse, pounding their, if we do this, we do this. She pulled his face back to hers. No more talking, no more thinking. Just a sharp knock on the door broke the moment. They both froze. Kongdae set Emily down carefully, his hand already reaching for the gun. 3 more knocks, on purpose, measured Kongdae, a woman's voice muffled by the door. I know you're in there. We need to talk. Emily's blood turned cold. That voice known in a way that made her belly twist. Kongdae's face had gone totally blank. Get in the bathroom, take the twins, lock the door. Don't come out until I say, who is it? My dead wife. Emily stared at him, sure she'd heard wrong, but his face was like stone. Whatever was on the other side of that door scared him in a way bullets and blood never had. Emily grabbed both car seats, moving fast and quiet to the bathroom. She locked the door, then pressed her ear against it, trying to hear. She heard Kang Dae cross the room, heard the chain slide free, heard the door open. "Hello, darling." The woman's voice was silk and poison. "Miss me?" Emily couldn't see through the bathroom door, but she could hear everything. The click of fancy heels on cheap floor, the rustle of fabric, the way the air in the motel room changed, becoming heavier. "Dangerous. You're supposed to be dead." Kang Dae's voice was no feeling, controlled. "I got better." The woman Sumin. Emily's mind gave, remembering the name from quiet talks, laughed. It was a pretty sound. "Aren't you going to invite me in, right? Or has living in poor dulled your manners? What do you want?" "The same thing I've always wanted. Everything you have, starting with what's inked on your skin." Emily's hands tightened on the edge of the sink. In the car seats next to her, both twins slept on. Not knowing, she wanted to burst out of the bathroom, wanted to grab Kang Dae and run, but she stayed frozen, listening. "The council thinks you're a hero," Sumin kept going. "The loving father who risked everything for his kids. How sweet, how good. They have no idea what you really are." "And what's that?" "Soft." The word dripped with hate. "You let feelings cloud your thinking. You kept the boy when you should have got rid of him. You said no to growing into weapons selling. You turned down chances because they broke your precious rules." A pause. "You became weak." A pause. "And weakness is why I had to die. You faked your death to stage a takeover. I set up a change." Sumin's voice moved closer. "The syndicate needs to change or die. Your father got that. He built an empire on blood and fear. You tried to build one on honor and holding back. Guess which one really works? I'm not giving you the codes. I'm not asking, darling." Something metal clicked. "A gun being ready. I'm taking. The question is whether I skin you alive, or just put a bullet in your head and work on the body. Either way, you're not leaving this room." Emily's heart pounded so hard, she thought it might break her ribs. She looked down at the twins, still sleeping peaceful. Looked at the thin bathroom door that wouldn't stop a set kid, much less armed killers. She'd promised Kang Dae she'd stay hidden, but if he died out there, they all died anyway. Emily's hands shook as she quietly opened the bathroom cabinet, looking for anything as a weapon. Rusted scissors, a plunger, nothing good, nothing. Her fingers closed around something hard and metal. A pipe wrench, probably left by a fix worker and forgotten. It would have to do. Emily lifted the wrench, testing its weight. Then she unlocked the bathroom door as quiet as possible, and opened it a crack. The scene that met her made her breath stop. Sumin was beautiful in a way that didn't look human. Sharp features, skin like china, dressed in white that stayed clean despite the dirty motel. She held a gun steady on Kang Dae, who stood with his hands up, his hurt shoulder bleeding again through the bandages. Behind Sumin, two men in fight gear stood by the door, armed, watching Kang Dae with the dead-eye focus of trained killers. "Last chance," Sumin said. "Give me the access codes, willing, and I'll make this quick. Refuse, and I'll make you watch while I feed your bad children into the Chicago River, piece by piece." Kang Dae's face didn't change, but Emily saw his hands make fists, saw the muscle jump in his jaw. "The boy isn't mine," he said quietly. Sumin's perfect calm cracked a bit. "What, John? He's not my real son." Kang Dae spoke slow, each word careful. "His father was my helper Min-jae. He died protecting me from an attack 3 years ago. I took June and raised him as my own. The children aren't twins, Sumin, they never were." Emily's mind spun. She looked at the sleeping babies, Hannah and June, who she'd thought were same twins. But now that she knew, she could see the small differences. Hannah's rounder face, Chun's sharper chin. Different fathers. "You adopted him." Sumin's voice was flat with not believing. "You took in the orphan of a dead soldier and passed him off as your heir." "Why?" "Because Minj asked me to with his dying breath. because Jun deserved better than the orphanage or the streets, because it was the right thing to do. Kang Dae's voice was steady. Not that you'd understand that. You're right, I don't. Suman raised the gun, putting it on Kong's forehead. Which is why I'm going to kill you now. Guards. Emily burst out of the bathroom with the wrench up. She didn't think, didn't plan, just moved with the same needy gut that had made her press her hands to Kang Dae's bleeding chest in that alley. She swung the wrench at the nearest guard's head with every bit of strength she had. The hit sent shocks up her arms. The guard dropped like a rock. The second guard spun toward her, raising his weapon, but Kang Dae was already moving, grabbing Suman's gun hand and twisting. The shot went wrong, going through the motel ceiling. Dust rained down. Emily swung the wrench again, hitting the second guard across the head. He staggered. She hit him again and again and again, until he stopped moving. The quiet that followed was loud. Emily stood over the outguards, breathing hard, the wrench slick with blood in her hands. Across the room, Kang Dae had Sumin on her knees, his hand fist in her perfect hair, her own gun pressed to her head. You shouldn't have threatened my children, he said quietly. Sumin laughed, even with death pressed against her head. You can't kill me, darling. I'm still your wife, still protected by the old code. The old code died when you did. Kong's finger tightened on the trigger. Wait, Emily's voice cut through the tight. Don't. Kang Dae's eyes snapped to hers. Emily, if you kill her, they'll never stop hunting us. But if we let her go, if we have proof, she broke the code first by threatening regular people. Emily pointed to herself, to the twins, sleeping peaceful in the bathroom despite the shot. Then we have power, proof, something to deal with. Sumin twisted in Kong's hold, trying to see Emily right. Who is this? The delivery girl. The nursing student you pulled into this mess. She's the woman who just saved my life. Kang Dae's voice was cold again. How charming. Sumin's smile was poison. Tell me, delivery girl, do you think he'll stay true to you longer than he stayed true to me? Or will you end up thrown away like every other woman who thought she was special? Emily met the woman's gaze steady. I don't need him to be true. I need him to be alive. Everything else is just details. Something showed in Sumin's eyes. Respect maybe, or thinking. Tie her up, Emily said. We're taking her with us. Kang Dae stared at Emily like she'd grown another head, but he didn't argue. Just pulled zip ties from one of the outguards and bound Sumin's wrists and ankles with rough skill. They left the motel room in mess. Emily carried both car seats, while Kang Dae half-dragged half-carried Sumin to the van. They loaded everything fast. Emily, behind the wheel again. Kang Dae in the passenger seat with his gun on his supposed dead wife in the back. Where are we going? Emily asked as she pulled out of the lot. I don't know. For the first time since she'd met him, Kang Dae sounded lost. Every safe house is in trouble. Every friend is suspect. We're ghosts with nowhere to haunt. Emily's hands tightened on the wheel. In the back seat, June started to cry. A thin, hurt sound that made her chest tight. Something's wrong, she said. Kang Dae twisted in his seat. His face went white. He's bleeding. Emily, he's bleeding. They found an empty gas station off a country highway. Emily parked behind the building, out of sight of cars. The bright lights had died long ago, leaving only moonlight to work by. She lifted June from his car seat with shaking hands. Blood soaked through his outfit. Fresh, bright red. The bullet must have grazed him during the storage ambush. We need a hospital, Emily said. We need a miracle. Kang Dae was next to her, his face tight with fear. Hospitals mean papers. Papers mean the council finds us. Finds them, then he dies. Emily heard the edge of crazy in her own voice. Is that what you want, to watch him bleed out because you're too scared to? I'll do it. Sumin's voice cut through their fight. Still tied, still risky, but her eyes were on June with something that might have been real worry. Take my blood. I'm O negative. Gives to anyone. Emily and Kang Dae both turned to stare at her. Why? Kong's voice was flat with doubt. Because I'm not a monster. Sumin's smile was bitter. Not the kind who lets kids die anyway. That's your thing, darling. The blame hung in the air. Emily looked between them. seeing years of past and hurt she couldn't untangle. Emily Kangday's voice was quiet, leaving the choice to her. Emily looked at Jun's pale face, looked at the blood on her hands, made the only choice she could. Do it. They set up in the gas station's dirty bathroom, using Emily's jacket as a table. She'd taken an IV kit from her hospital training months ago, kept it in her emergency stuff just in case. Now she thanked whatever gut had made her keep medical stuff like treasure. Suman sat with her tied hands out, watching as Emily found the vein, put the needle, started the blood flow. The woman didn't flinch, didn't complain, just bled quiet while Emily worked to save a kid she'd threatened to kill an hour before. He's not yours, Sumin said after a long quiet. She was looking at Kangday, not Emily. You said Jun's father was Minj. Yes, Minje was loyal, one of the few. Sumin's voice was far, remembering he would have died for you. Did die for you. Yes, and you kept his son, raised him as your own heir. Let the whole syndicate believe he was your blood. Sumin laughed, soft. That's why they couldn't find power, isn't it? They did DNA tests on Jun thinking yes, but it didn't match. Made them think the whole family line was messed up. Made them move against you. Kangday said nothing, but Emily saw the truth in his quiet. You're an idiot. Suin said, a feeling, honorable idiot. Minja's son should have been set up quiet in another country. Instead, you kept him close, made him a target. He's my son. Kanday's voice was steel. Biology doesn't change that. No. Sumin's gaze moved to Emily, but it changes everything else. The council will never accept June as heir now. They'll kill him to make sure bloodline pure. Unless what? Emily asked. Unless what? Unless someone with real claim to lead steps up. Sumin's smile was sharp. Someone with power. Someone who can challenge the old code and win. Emily's hand stopped on the foreline. You're saying I'm saying I didn't fake my death and set up a takeover for nothing. Sumin's eyes shone in the low light. I wanted power, yes, but I also wanted change. Wanted to pull the syndicate out of old times and into now world. Your darling husband stood in the way of that. But you, she looked at Emily with something like okay. You're not tied by old ways, not limited by the old code. You could really change things. I'm a delivery driver, Emily said flat. I'm nobody. You're the woman who saved the heir, who keeps him alive despite no way odds. Sumin leaned forward despite her ties. In the old stories, that makes you the queen whether you want the crown or not. Before Emily could answer, Jun made a small sound, not quite a cry, more like a sigh. His color was getting better, the blood flow okay. Emily finished the give with steady hands, took off the line, bandaged both Sumin and Jun with the last of her stuff. He'll live, she said quietly. Kangday's outbreath was shaky. He lifted June carefully, holding the baby against his chest with endless gentle. The big dangerous mob boss turned to a scared father holding his kid. Emily's phone, the new extra Kangday had bought at the gas station, buzzed. Unknown number, she answered. Hello, Emily, Minho's voice. I've been trying to reach the boss. Where are you? Somewhere safe. What do you want? I have news. The council is meeting tomorrow night. Emergency meet. They're voting on who takes over. A pause. If Kangday doesn't show, they'll say he's dead and split his area. Everything he built will be gone. Emily looked at Kangday, saw the tired in his eyes. The way he held Jun like the baby was the only thing keeping him tied to the world. Where's the meeting? She asked. Minho gave her an address. A warehouse in the factory area. Full circle. Back to where it all started. There's one more thing, Minho said. His voice went soft, almost sorry. They're offering a reward. 2 million for proof of death. 3 million for bring alive. Every hunter in 3 states is coming to Chicago. You have maybe 6 hours before someone finds you. The line went dead. Emily stared at the phone, her mind going fast. 6 hours, $2 million. Every bad guy, hired gun, a needy fool with a gun would be hunting them. We need to split up, Kangday said. He'd heard the whole talk. You take the twins. I'll lead the hunters away. No, Emily's voice was firm. We go together. We end this together. Emily, I'm done running. She met his gaze steady. We go to that meeting. We face the council. We finish this. They'll kill you. Maybe. Emily smiled grim. But at least, I'll die doing something that matters. Kangday stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded once, taking her choice the same way she'd taken his from the start. They drove through the night, heading back toward the city. Sumin slept in the back, still tied, but no longer fighting. The twins slept peaceful, not knowing the storm ahead. Emily's hands were steady on the wheel, her mind clear for the first time in days. She was done being scared, done being small. If the council wanted a queen, she'd give them one, even if it killed her. Before coming here, they'd made a single stop. Emily's old apartment building. Mrs. Rivera from Tubi had taken one look at the babies and pulled them inside without a word. Emily left a gun on the counter and whispered, "Anyone tries that door, you shoot." The warehouse where Emily had found Kangday dying felt different now. Known, almost like coming home. The same loading dock, the same shadows, but this time, they walked in through the front door. The council was already together. 12 men in fancy suits, seated around a long table that looked silly formal in the factory setting. They all turned to stare as Kangday entered with Emily at his side. Sumin tied and mouth covered behind them. Emily had left the twins with the only person she trusted, Mrs. Rivera from apartment to be, who'd taken one look at the babies and asked no questions. Some kindness was still possible in this world. Kangday, the oldest council member, stood. "You're alive." Disappointed. Kangday's voice was cold, relieved. The old man's gaze moved to Emily, then to Sumin. "Though I see you've brought interesting company. The delivery girl who started this mess, and a ghost we thought we'd buried months ago." Sumin faked her death, Emily said before Kangday could speak. She set up the takeover, hired the hunters, poisoned the formula meant for the children. She broke every rule the syndicate holds holy. Serious claims. Another council member leaned forward. "Do you have proof?" Emily pulled out the phone, the one she'd taken from Sumin's pocket during the fight. She'd spent the drive getting into it, her one class of computer stuff finally helping. She showed the stuff on the warehouse wall. Messages, money moves, kill orders, everything out in bad detail. The council looked at the proof in quiet. When they finally spoke, their voices were cold with anger. "The penalty for breaking oath is death." The oldest member looked at Sumin with no feeling. "Right now in total weight." Emily's voice rang out. "That's not why we're here." Every eye in the room turned to her. "We're not here to punish Sumin." Emily kept going. "We're here to end the old code, to build something better, something that doesn't eat its own kids." Bold words from a regular. One of the younger council members sneered. "You have no place here, girl. No voice, no she has place." Kangday's voice cut through the room like a knife. "She saved my life, saved my children. She has more honor than anyone at this table. Honor doesn't give council spot." The old man's voice was tired. "You know the law, Kangday. She's a witness, and witnesses are problems." The air in the room got cold 20 degrees. "You want her dead?" Kong said it flat, not a question. "We want loose ends tied, regulars gone, business safe." The old man spread his hands. "It's nothing personal. It's simply how things are done." Kangday moved faster than Emily could follow. The gun showed in his hand. 3 shots rang out. 3 council members dropped, blood spreading across their fancy suits. The room blew into mess. Men reached for weapons, shouted threats, but Kangday stood with the gun steady, his face like stone. "New rule," he said into the shocked quiet. "The woman lives. Anyone who argues dies." Kangday pointed to the back of the room where Mrs. Rivera, who had followed them in, stood waiting. "Get her out of here. The feds are waiting at the meet point. She's their problem now. You're starting war." The old man's voice shook. "Against your own council, against old ways. No." Kangday lowered the gun slow. "I'm starting change. The old code dies here. Tonight, we build something new or we burn it all down. Your choice." Emily stepped forward, putting herself between Kongdae and the council. She was scared, but she'd been scared for days now. Scared was just another way to be. You need leading, she said. Someone who gets the old ways but isn't tied by them. Someone who can talk with police, with real businesses, with the now world. And you think that's you? The sneer was back in the younger member's voice. No, Emily smiled. I think that's us. Kangdae knows the business. I know how to keep people alive. Together, we're change. Apart, you're just waiting for the next takeover to destroy what's left. The council members looked at each other. The math was simple. They'd already lost 3 members. Kongdae had shown he'd burned the whole group before letting Emily die, and Sumin's turn had shown how breakable the old system was. Finally, the old man spoke. What are you saying? A team Kongdae runs work. I handle outside stuff and regular protection. Emily's voice was steady. We make modern, we spread out, we stop running the syndicate like it's still 1950. And if we say no? Emily looked at Kongdae, saw the answer in his eyes. Then you die, she said simple. And we start over with people who get what century we're in. The quiet stretched. Emily's heart pounded so hard, she thought everyone could hear it. This was the moment. Accept or die. Change or end. The old man laughed. It was a rough, real sound. Minjae would have liked you. Emily blinked. What? Jun's father, Minjae. He always said the syndicate needed fresh blood. Someone who got both worlds. The old man stood slow, painful. He would have okayed this crazy. He held out his hand. Emily stared at it for a long moment. Then she reached out and shook. His grip was firm despite his age. Welcome to the council, Emily Harrison. Try not to get us all killed. 3 months later, Emily stood in the top apartment looking over Chicago's skyline. The view was better than her old studio. Heck, the bathroom was bigger than her old studio. Hannah and June were in the baby room, protected by guards that made strong places look easy. They were growing fast. Hannah had learned to laugh. Jun had figured out how to grab his own toes. Normal baby things in a not normal world. You're thinking too loud. Kangdae's arms wrapped around her from behind. His shoulder had healed. The tattoos still covered his skin. All those spots and codes and secrets. But now she knew how to read them, how to protect them. I'm thinking about delivery orders. Emily said about how one fake sushi order changed everything. Regrets? No. She turned in his arms, rising on her toes to kiss him. Not one. It wasn't a fairy tale. The syndicate still had enemies. The council still tested lines. Sumin was in a safe place, being slowly fixed or broken. Emily wasn't sure which was happening and wasn't sure she cared. But Emily was no longer the girl sinking in debt and sadness. She was someone else now, someone harder, someone who'd held a dying man and refused to let him go. Someone who'd beat killers with a pipe wrench and stared down mob bosses without blinking. Someone who'd become a queen without ever wanting the crown. The twins are asking for you, Kongdae said against her hair. Well, June as Hannah just threw her bottle at the nanny again. Emily laughed. Coming, she took his hand. The same hand that had held a gun to her chest in a blood-soaked alley. The same hand that now held their family together. Outside, Chicago glittered in the dark. Somewhere out there, delivery drivers went through the night. Somewhere out there, needy people made impossible choices. But here, in this moment, Emily Harrison had everything she needed. And she hadn't even had to deliver any sushi to get